What's up, guys? It's Hands Free here, back again with another video. Please remember, before we get to any of the content that you're actually here to watch, to make sure you hit the thumbs up button before you even know if you like this video, and hit the subscribe down below. This all helps me to keep doing my burger flipping on the side and not have to get a real job. And I'm gonna be sponsored by some VPNs real soon. Thanks, yo. Anyways, enough of the poser crap. Sorry, I just I've been listening or watching some videos from other people in the YouTube community, specifically gaming related, and I used to know some of these guys on Twitter, and so just to watch their videos and it'd be just so over the top and cheesy. I don't know. They think they're some kind of real influencer. Most of the people, from what I see, go to their video sections to just argue with each other. But anyways, the point here is, for the actual video, looking at the bias against Xbox kind of starting to turn around a little bit. For many years now, obviously I'm a big subscriber in the concept of fake news. You know, people just clickbaiting or telling parts of stories to suit their narrative, or straight up lying about things in general. And we had a case of this just come up with the Xbox Series X when, through a whole bunch of random stupid crap, suddenly the Xbox Series X has a heat problem. And of course, when you look a little further, it turns out, oh, the Xbox Series X ventilates heat correctly. That's the problem. Or, again, it's not an actual problem. But somebody was talking in a podcast or a live stream about how the Xbox Series X put out enough heat that, I could use it as a space heater or something like that. Some joke, because, the console runs really hot or it doesn't run hot, but generates a lot of heat because it's very powerful, and it ventilates that heat out the top. So basically, the console works as it's supposed to. It protects its components by removing the heat from inside, and you can feel it. Just one example. I mean, there's always fake news that comes up, and this seems to plague Xbox every generation. I rarely see any of this kind of stuff about PlayStation. If there is, the general mainstream gaming media shuts it down pretty quickly. So I've just always hated this bias against Xbox. I've seen it ever since the 360. It was one of the things that turned me on to the idea of fake news, because just like that story, I would constantly read stuff and go, well, that doesn't make any sense, or why do you always just focus on Xbox? Why don't you ever tell us about the fact that the PS3 is so hard to program for, or that the PS4 sounds like a dang hurricane when it's running games? These things get very little coverage. And the failings of Sony on a consumer level get very little coverage, especially the last couple of years. But it feels like it's starting to turn around a little bit, and I think it's just because Microsoft has gone so over the top pro consumer. How can they even lie to you anymore? Everybody knows this. Everybody's starting to see it. The only people who don't are your hardcore PlayStation subscribers, basically, who only read those headlines and are like, well, I heard the Xbox doesn't have any games. Oh, okay, cool. Well, what games do you have? Spider-Man and God of War? I can do the same thing. I can regurgitate the same punchline from Twitter, too. It doesn't make it any more true, but, there it is. Anyways, so outside of that, it's actually becoming quite universal praise for Microsoft, and whether it's Game Pass or backwards compatibility, pricing and availability, all these different things are really working in their favor. For instance, right now, I didn't realize this. I actually thought that the new Spider-Man coming for PS5, everybody kept calling it Spider-Man PS5. I didn't catch on to it, but I actually thought it was a sequel to the Spider-Man game on PS4. I was wrong. It's the same game. They're going to be charged again for the same game and the DLC. But there's an expansion from Miles Morales or whatever. And I'm just like blown away by this. Like, really? Are you guys gonna do this? Like, you're gonna buy the same game again? Because I'm gonna put Gears 5 on my Xbox, and I'm gonna get an automatic update that gives me the upgraded version of the game and new features, what like ray tracing and new graphical effects and improved frame rates and all these different things, including I believe 120 frames for multiplayer. And I'm gonna get this for free, just for putting my game into the console. My games are backwards compatible across 3 different generations of games, and if they ran on the Xbox One, they're gonna run on the Series X. And if there's any kind of, especially on first party games, but even on third party, like say Cyberpunk and stuff like that, if there's any kind of upgrades that are going to be available, then I'll get those upgrades for free. I mean, Xbox is demanding it of people that put games on their console. Um, but on PlayStation, you're going to have to buy the same game over again if you want to play an improved version of it on your PS5. And on top of that, saves don't even carry over. If I were to put, I'm using Gears 5 as the example, but it could be Borderlands 3 or something like that. If I were to put this game into my Series X and want to pick up where I left off on Xbox One, well, I'm going to be able to. My save game, my save file is stored in the cloud and will carry over to the new console, and I'll be able to play it just like that. The backwards compatibility is still really messy on PlayStation, but Spider-Man is one that's confirmed. And on that game, if you decide to get the remastered version that you have to pay for, you won't be able to carry over your save from the normal version. You're going to have to start all over again or play the original PS4 version of it. That's kind of ridiculous. It's not very fair. Like, and maybe in previous times, in previous years and generations, they would get away with it. They might still, just because it's Sony and there's that bias. But Microsoft is setting such a precedent for consumer-friendly practices with backwards compatibility, with the upgrades, with cross-generational saves and multiplayer. As far as I know, I'll be able to play Halo with my brother on his Xbox One from my Series X. And then, of course, things like Game Pass and all that. I just don't see how the bias can really continue for Sony, and hopefully the consumer starts to pick up on it too. Because when they do, and they realize how shady and how little information they get from Sony, and that it's not good for them most of the time, I think you'll start to see more people picking up that Series S or even Series X. Oh, and don't forget to hit that like, comment, smash the like button.